Returning again for the Anime Watch Club, we are combining some Power Rangers and anime. We're back yet again, joined with my two wonderful co-hosts, Doug and Sean, and we are talking about SSSS Dynazenon. Gentlemen, hello once again.
Hello.
We're
Oh,
back.
hey there.
We're back. We have watched a bunch of fucking robots dueling it out with emotion monsters,
They're called
the
kaiju. It's
kaiju, as you want to call them.
like the Japanese version of Caillou, except it's not a bald little kid. It's a fucking emotional robot
That
that
spits
spawns from
paint
a seed.
or spits paint.
Listen, that was my favorite one.
Of course it is. the brain dead one.
It was adorable.
Wait, are you saying this is Trigun all over again? Are they just plants?
Plants, God. Yeah, I did have recently someone commented on like that, and he explained it, and I was like, God, that makes so much more sense because I guess he read the manga.
That would probably
It
do it.
makes
They'd
so
probably
much
just
more
ruin the
sense.
anime.
Yeah, yeah. I want to know what they're on about.
Well,
Yes.
you'll have to explain that
So
later.
I refuse to say all these S's because I have a partial lisp. So Dynazenon, right?
Dynazenon.
Ye-
Kind of just throws you into it. I feel like.
It was
Yeah.
it was a shitty start. I'm gonna say it. I'll be the one to say it. It was a
I-
horrible start. Episode
Yeah.
one did not make me want to watch more of it.
I even think like you said, because I think you said it was like the first three, and I remember feeling the exact same way, and that's kind of why I banged them back to back to back.
Yeah,
So I was like,
after
bro, I was like, you just gotta get through this. You just gotta get through this.
after episode three, I was like, okay, I could see where this is going now. But episode one, it was just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, because it was like it's one of those animes to where it's a lot at once, and you're like, are you gonna explain it? It's like, please explain it later.
That's
And,
a common theme.
Yeah, and then it kind of didn't get explained.
Don't wait. There's a whole lot more that
Yeah.
won't be explained. But you know, I for one wasn't too impartial. Granted, it wasn't the best start, but I kind of saw what they were trying to do. They were trying to develop main characters, and granted, the way it happened, it didn't feel like I was going to be watching a mech-esh,
Yeah. I think the best way
anime.
I can describe like Dynazenon is it's a mech anime meets like slice of life almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Because they
it
want
doesn't
you
really.
to see like their daily like routine and then like how essentially this like random thing put them together.
So here's the thing, which is like kind of weird for me at least.
Mhm.
I enjoyed the slice of life portion
Yeah.
of it more than I actually enjoyed the mech portion
Yeah, and
of it.
I think that's where we kind of landed because you get all the mech parts are so strange compared to like the slice of life because like you get like background on each character like why they kind of are like outsiders of the world in a way, right?
The focus on character building for like the main four characters was like actually like decent.
Yeah.
But I feel like the mech aspect of everything just was like so much was left in the unknown that I like almost refused to be like, okay, this is dope.
Yeah, I almost just like didn't care that much about the mech of
It,
like the
but it
actual
was
battle because you were like you were always kind of like, well, they're gonna win.
I think the thing for exactly, I think the thing for me was like, okay, the slice of life shit, like I'm learning something new and I get to see more about the characters.
Yeah.
But like the mech battle, it was inevitable in every single episode. It was like it was
Yeah,
such a
like
repeat
like
process.
yeah, like you said, it always had to happen, and you're
Yeah, it's
like,
just like,
it's like you
oh, a
couldn't have an
kaiju popped
episode
up.
without it.
It's just like, yep, at least at one point in every episode, it's like, oh, a kaiju popped up. Okay, time to go fight.
Yeah,
It happened around the same time, like every single
Mhm.
episode.
And
So
you're like,
it
what are they
wasn't.
gonna do combined?
Yeah, it wasn't like a big, like awesome fight was just
Yeah.
like happening from build up or anything. It kind of just happened to happen
Yeah,
almost.
there's no drama to the mech part, and all
Except
of
for the
that's
last
one-
fight. That was it.
yeah,
That
and
was
like
it.
all of that's in like your slice of life. That's where you get the drama of it and like how they are.
Hold on. Before we just completely shit on all that, I want to at least give it that the animation was
Sir-
pretty good in the
sir,
fights.
I was reeling it in. It's
What?
also Studio Trigger, so that's
Yeah. Well,
which
I
they have
mean,
a very good reputation of animation. It's also like a collaboration of studios to do that.
the
So
one thing I didn't like about these fights was there's the reuse of the transformation. It seemed kind of lazy on my part,
yeah,
but
I mean, like I always like with like, kind of what like Sean's getting at is that if you're looking for like a straight mech anime, I think it isn't the one.
absolutely not.
And I
No.
think that like it's the worst part about it by far. Of like, yeah, like they're kind of cool in like the way that they're like toys and they like turn into that. I was like that's kind of cool, but it's just never explained. And then like you don't get the drama from it. So it's kind of like, okay, they're fighting a monster. Okay, that guy's controlling them. They're going to win.
Well,
And
well,
here's
I
the
mean,
same three moves over again.
well, there was the one. I mean, and granted, the one fight where they refused to fight until Gamma, kind of told
Yeah.
him what he was all about, and I
Yeah,
mean
but
that was really the only
but
fight where they
yet
brought in the
again,
slice of life aspect.
yeah, but yet again, it's like the character part of it is what saved that versus like none of like the mech
The
battle.
actual,
There's
yeah.
no like, oh fuck, like what's gonna happen? You're like, are they gonna use the Dynasaber? And that's kind of where you're like when you talk about it being like Power Rangers in a way that I
Yeah.
understand that part. Other than like, there's not enough variance in the enemies to care. You know, like,
There was a couple interesting like mech enemies.
I don't know.
I mean, not enough to justify. I get the point,
mhm.
but there's the one that towards the end kind of made you face your like memories
Yeah, like,
or
no, like
whatever.
that one's really good. Like that one's great. Not, the last fight I think is
But I get
like,
what you're saying.
second
They're
last fight.
very few and far between.
Yeah.
Most of them are just, all right, this one will explode your missiles. This one will melt something. This one, I mean, it's all the same thing in a different way. So I 100% get what you're saying.
Yeah. So, I guess like a little intro of it. So I think like probably the most regular guy is I would say is our main character, which is Yomogi, and he's
Yeah.
kind of just a typical high school student, and he's kind of like a workaholic in a way, because I'm assuming it's just because his mom's like a single mother, so he doesn't want to like rely on anyone. That's kind of how it is.
Well, single mother, but she has apparently a boyfriend that
Yeah.
has money. So
Yeah, and he's like nice. He's like, yeah, he's a good guy, but like fuck him, type thing. Typical
I
teenager
guess.
thing.
It's not a focus of the anime.
Mhm.
So I guess it's another open end right there.
Yeah, and then so basically he runs into this fucking. The only way I could really describe him is like crack addict looking guy.
Yeah.
He looks like a crust punk almost.
Kinda, yeah. And he's like, because he's got like these dark like eyelids and shit, and you're like, God damn, that fucker looks like he's dead.
He looks
Pink
like
hair.
homeless Bon.
Yeah, has like a crop top on and pants, and he's like, "Yo, let me get some food."
Yeah, he's like the most out of place character in this, and like no one questions it for some
At all.
reason.
At all. Nobody questions. Well, they
It's
don't
like-
question a lot of things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're like, yeah, fucking Tokyo getting destroyed again. But
He runs
so
into
basically,
Gawa.
he's like starving, and then he fucking offers him like his leftovers.
Yeah. Then he starts acting creepy, and then Yogami runs away.
Like, I'm loyal to you for life, and he's like, what the fuck? This guy's on crack.
yeah, because Gamma, I guess, was like starving and hadn't eaten. So
Yeah.
he's like, Yomogi, I owe you my life. Whatever favor you need repaid, I will do it. And then he kind of just starts following Yomogi around.
Yeah,
For
and then,
some weird, needy reason.
yeah, just like, I don't know. He's like trying to repay him type thing.
Like if you give a fucking homeless guy in the corner $1,
Yeah.
and if
You
he
got
just
five.
like, yeah, and then just followed you for like 2 days.
Imagine like the rest of your life. You give a homeless guy $1, he follows you for the rest of your life. Just
Yeah.
for that one moment.
And then we run into our other main character afterwards.
Yeah, so there's a girl in Yomigi's class named Yumi. She has a reputation of breaking promises. Her friend whose name I don't know, or even if they even say it in the anime, but she's like, you have a reputation. And
She jokes around and calls her mom because she's always trying
Yeah.
to tell her what to do.
Oh
like, give
yeah,
her
yeah.
advice.
That's May. Pretty sure is her name.
May. Yeah. Sorry, I watched Malignant last
I can't
night,
remember.
and that name just triggered that whole shit show of a movie. So yeah. So they're running through like the park that they run through the whole fucking series. And she's sitting on this
It's a floodgate.
floodgate.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sitting there, and
Because he's with his friends at that point, isn't he? Because that's where they're like gossiping about her.
Yeah, they're walking
Yeah.
home from school.
Yeah. And yeah, and then she notices them talking, whatever. And she ends up how do they end up talking again?
So basically,
Holy
it's
shit.
like I think if I remember, like his like friends split up, and then he like ends up going up there or something like that, and then she like fucking ends up like following him essentially. And it's like, hey, will you meet me tonight? And he's like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, bitch,
like,
why? Like I. And then
but
she's like, essentially, like, is like
she said
you'll
she
the only one
needed to
that'll
tell
hear me
him
out.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so he is a freshman in high school, but he works after school seemingly every day. So he's like, yeah, I'll meet you after work, say 9 p.m. So they go through the whole rigmarole. He ends up meeting there at the floodgate, and she's like 40 minutes late. It's like 9:40, 41, whatever, when he's looking. And you just hear Yokami's name being shouted out and Jama walking up like,
because they're like on a bridge.
What
like
the fuck are you doing?
Because she's like, apparently she's like, she's waiting on a bridge like across, and he's like, so like, what's going on? He's like,
Yeah, she's
waiting on a classmate.
She's just creeping on him like from far.
Yeah, so Gama's like, yo, where this bitch at? And he's like, she's breaking promises and shit, huh?
Yeah,
and he's
then
like, I'm
Gama's
gonna go find her.
Yeah, Gama's like, oh, I owe you a favor anyways. I'm gonna go find her. And then he happens to stumble across her and just gets in fucking Yume's face. It's like, Yomogi's been waiting for you and you're late, and why are you doing this? Why would you break a promise to him? And you know, there's this thing he always fucking says. There's 3 things in life you shouldn't
he's like, you should always
talk
keep,
about loose ends some more.
It's what you should always keep. So it's fucking promises, love, and then he peters out, and then he never says the
third one. Never.
Yeah. So fucking pretty much goes from that point of like Yomogi walks up to, and he's like, well, like, so what? So like why? Because he's always like this nice guy. Yelling. He's always the nice guy about it. He's like, so like why? And,
and then
she's like, there's something wrong with me.
Obviously.
And that's the whole nice guy trying to fucking fix a broken girl complex going on. Like, ooh, now I'm tied in. Now I'm interested in her.
I don't know. Even though like
she's so mysterious.
At times, always like I said, like they try to make him seem like super normal and stuff like that. But I'm like, he's kind of weird at times.
Yeah.
Like, he's like real quiet, and like he almost like goes with the flow of everything.
Yeah, he's very just.
So it's like, this.
They tried to make him the most normal
like,
boy.
It's like this girl like stood me up, and then he kind of just doesn't really care.
Well, I mean, seemingly like he hadn't talked to her till that same day. So I mean, it's remarkable that he'd even show up. Realistically, I mean.
Yeah. And then, of course, then you get the top tier action to where monster comes out of nowhere.
Hold on, I'm putting the brakes on.
Yeah, we gotta put the brakes on. We gotta introduce the 3rd and 4th character, or the 4th and 5th character, technically.
So we split away from this randomly for seemingly no reason to some guy just laying in his bed and a young girl just on the same bed. No, she's not in that way.
She's like in a computer chair.
Bud, let me pump the brakes. She's on the ground.
You see so many scenes in that room. Yeah. Sorry. I missed
Essentially,
that.
so they go to this other scene where it's a guy and they explain it to be his cousin. He's essentially a hermit, though. He doesn't really leave his room. They state multiple times he's unemployed. She doesn't go to school because she's influenced by her older cousin. And they see on the news, essentially, or whatever, that a giant fucking robot appears in the city. And they're like, oh, let's go check it out.
Yeah, and then so
Forgot
they
his-
go
what's
outside.
his-
What a
what's his
backstory.
name? What's his
Koyomi.
name? Kayomi,
Koyomi.
and then Chise is his younger cousin.
Yeah,
So they go out and they're like, yeah, let's go see this giant robot thingamajig.
and seemingly they're probably 100 yards away from Yomogi, Gama, and Yume.
Yep.
So, now we're going on to what Tyler was talking about, a giant kaiju's in the city just messing stuff up. So Gama states multiple times at this point that he's a kaiju user, and then
And
he
then
tries
everybody's
calling
just-
upon one.
But he's rusty, quote unquote.
Yeah, and they're all just
Doesn't
like,
have
what the?
power.
And they're like, what the fuck's a kaiju?
Yeah,
He's like,
like-
that thing, stupid. And then
Okay.
he's like, let me reach into my magical bag and whip out this toy.
Yeah.
And I'm
he's
not
like, "This-"
kidding.
like
Yeah,
I
and he's
guess
like-
this is what this is for.
Yeah, and then he's like,
this is why I was entrusted with it.
Yeah, I was entrusted with this, so we got to use it to fight the fucking giant robot kaiju. And then everybody else at this point is just like, what?
Yeah, they're all there just fucking dealing with their own mental illness, and then this dude just brings out a mech.
And he's like,
And-
fuck, I can't pilot it alone. I need 4 people. I need 4 teenagers with attitude.
Wow, what a coincidence. They're
Power
all
Rangers.
there.
Well, 2 teenagers and then 1 old and unemployed dude.
Yeah.
Or middle-aged,
Yeah.
sorry.
Wow, what a coincidence. There's enough people there so they can all pilot, quote unquote, Dynazenon. And then fucking
How's that, a
Dynazenon.
quote unquote? How's that a quote unquote? That's what it's called.
Well, he says it. He's like Dynazenon.
Oh yeah,
and
oh yeah.
then-
That's where he's like, "Oh, your name is Dynazenon," because like tells
Yeah.
him his first. It's
Yeah,
like
and there's
in the
a-
part
there-
where they show the mech transforming. The song is like Dynazenon,
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Your name is Dynazenon."
He's like, I guess this is what Dynazenon is. And it's like, no shit, dude, you pulled it out of your fucking bag. Like, what were you expecting? A birthday cake to pop up?
I
Like,
just
I
thought
don't
that,
get it.
bro. I thought that part was so funny because the song does it, and he goes, "I guess your name is Dynazenon."
Dynazenon.
Yeah,
And
so that
then-
part, yeah.
And the other 3 are just like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, how do we do this shit? And then nothing else literally happens except for them fighting the other kaiju. And then they're all just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and then
That-
so
that's
of course
and
that's
then-
how it rolls into the next episode, and you're like,
Bro, the thing
okay.
the thing that killed me is like they started like he didn't know what fucking Dynazenon was. None of them did,
Yeah.
but they all just started doing these like preemptively named moves and shit. Like you know what I mean? Like how
Yeah,
they
that-
know the name.
Yeah, you got to get the Dyna Saber out.
Whatever, they
It's
beat
like,
the
how do you know what it's
kaiju.
called?
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, you
Yeah, I
guys
thought
don't know
that too. I
anything
forgot
about
about that.
the. I was like, you guys don't know anything about this shit, but you know the names of all these fucking like moves you could do together.
Yeah,
And they beat the kaiju with Dynazenon all together, and then that's essentially the ending of episode 1, and that's why I was in such a like, what the fuck is going on, kind of mindset about it.
Yeah, they threw a lot at you at once.
Yeah.
They threw in the emotional, like, beginnings of these
Okay.
connections.
and then it like cuts
You know.
off too. So I think that's what the weird part is, because it cuts off as like, so that's literally the first episode. That whole fucking ramble that we did is the first episode.
It gets a lot more simple going through.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, because it's like, well, why the fuck wasn't it split up throughout? And it's just like jammed down your throat real quick. And I also think like one of the funny things, about this show is that every episode it's named after a question.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because the first episode's name is "What is a kaiju?"
Yeah,
or "What is a
and,
kaiju user?" or something like that.
yeah, and some of us are still asking that question 12 episodes later.
Yeah.
Like, what's your
I am.
purpose? Why are you even here?
I'm asking that question.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically, trying to think of like a good like part. So they're kind of like they kind of go back to normal, and then yet again they haven't questioned why. And they're like, so like, what's
And
going on
a,
over here?
a funny scene in the second episode was so they after that battle they're like, all right, we need to meet up and practice with our mechs, learn how to use them. And everyone shows up except for
Yomogi.
Yomogi. Sorry,
He's,
dude.
he's like, I don't want
English
to
is
do
hard
this.
sometimes.
He's like,
He's
bro,
like, I don't
I got responsibilities and shit.
Yeah.
He's
I'm
like,
the only one here employed with
Yeah,
this middle-aged dude and this
you imagine us having to take
homeless
off
psycho.
fucking. We got to take off work to go fucking battle a monster. How you explaining that shit to your boss?
Dude,
Yeah.
I would go battle the monster gladly. Fuck work.
Well, I thought it was
Sean's
funny.
down bad.
I thought the part where he was like in the bath,
Bro.
you know, and then just Gama shows up and hops in the bath with him.
Yeah.
Just,
Bro,
that shit had me rolling.
I was thinking Sean fucking pilots Dynazenon, right? Or whatever the fuck. He just accidentally steps on his work. Whoops.
Oopsie.
Guess I can't go tomorrow.
Yeah, so Gama shows up at Yomogi's house, like Doug was saying, and just casually hops in the bath with his bro.
He's like, dog.
Like, aren't you cramped?
Yeah,
Yes.
you cramped? Yeah. Dog, you
Then
gotta come to training.
And then Yomogi's like, Mom, why the fuck did you let this guy in? Oh, he seemed like your friend.
Yeah, the fucking
what?
crack addict with the like tattooed fucking under eye bags.
Why'd you let the fucking homeless crust
Gutter
punk
gutter
crust punk
in.
who's in a fucking wannabe Misfits cover band come in the bath with me?
Yeah, like not only did you let him into the house, you also let him strip and come into the bathroom with me. What the fuck? There's no safety in this house.
None. Mom, what the fuck?
And
I would be emotionally damaged also.
that is like one of the funny parts. That too is like he brings up shit like that. He's like, yo, like why, Mom, why? Of like everything she does.
She's just so casual.
Yeah,
So loud.
and he's like, it's like such a normal. He's like, it's such a normal part of his life.
I think
Yeah.
after that, like he skips out on another training session to go to work,
yeah,
and then
because that's where he like
fucking-
sends Yume, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
like is that the one where it's on the way? Like the kaiju appeared.
well, no, his boss was
So-
talking to him. He decides that he had plans for the next time,
Mhm.
and his boss is like, "Ooh, you got a date or something
Yeah.
like that? Is it intimate? Is it romantic?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Bitch, shut the fuck up! Like, let my boy Yomogi
I
do
believe
his
what
thing."
she asked was erotic.
Erotic. That's what it was. Yeah, whatever. Same shit.
Yeah, you're just mad because my boy Yomogi pulls him, dog.
And
Dude,
then
how weird of a question is that to ask a freshman in high school?
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess you could just. No, I say that part. I'll save that.
Chris
part.
I mean,
Hansen,
Who sh-
realism
who
aside,
she-
that
like,
shit
who his
happens.
boss
But
is.
then you just see an animated Chris Hansen pop up in SSSS Dynazenon and walks up to the fucking lady. Hey, have a seat. Have a seat.
Dynapedo.
Have a seat. You want a cookie? Like,
What were we gonna use those condoms for? Water balloons.
and then yeah, so I think on the way to work the next time, that's when the fucking kaiju pops up, and that's when
kaiju.
the kaiju, and then they go and fucking fight, and they're like, Dynazenon, and then Yomogi's like, yo, I haven't been showing up to training, so I don't even know how to walk this motherfucker.
Yeah, dog. Like, what
Oh,
is
that
this thing?
show was hilarious. Just fucking, that was funny when he's just fucking moving his arms and not knowing what to do.
Yeah, he's like, it's like, because it's like a joystick thing. They make it like seem like it's all powered by like through your fucking head, but then there's like this basic ass Atari analog stick in there.
It looks like one of those fighting game controllers that you could buy,
Yeah, it's like even worse. Honestly, it's like a half pad of that.
right? Especially with like giant robots popping up. Like, yo, this is what I have to use to pilot this thing.
Yeah, and you don't even get to like a seatbelt. You get knocked over, your ass just fucking hits the back.
So that happens. They pull through. They defeat the kaiju through teamwork and
Power of
good
friendship,
spirits. Yeah, good spirits, and then rolls on to the next episode, I believe.
Well,
After
it's
that,
also, so with I think the part that we brought up too is that that they confronted. They were like, "We're not doing anything till you tell us what these fucking people are. Galma.
Yeah, that's right.
Because like they know him and they're like, we're gonna kill you. So they're like, what's happening here? And they're
Yeah,
like, you're hiding
so
something. And then he explains the convoluted theory of what a kaiju eugenicist is. And
yeah,
just throw a
so
random big word at you.
after that fight where Yomogi had no idea what the fuck he was doing, you know, the Galma's been talking about kaiju eugenicists, and up until that point, they were introduced after that fight, pretty much stating that, you know, they were just like enemies already. They didn't go into the details of, you know, the past or whatever, but they're just like, yeah, these guys are all adept to, you know, they're all kaiju users also, and they're all like, what? I don't know nothing about that, but yeah, so that's when the first introduction of the four eugenists, you know, was done, just for continuity
And
reasons.
don't ask us their names because they barely say them.
Juga, Onija, Mujina, and
All I know is
Suzumo or
all I
something like
know
that.
is Eugenia's the girl, and then that whatever that last one you said is the one that it's got like a braid.
All I
Yeah.
remember was ponytail braid, glasses guy,
Yeah,
girl with thick thighs and short
Glasses-
Hipster hair.
glasses,
and then
Levi voice.
and then edgy redhead.
Yeah,
That's all I remember. I don't remember their names.
The fucking the glasses guy with like the purple hair. That's a fucking Levi's voice actor.
That's Juga.
Well,
Onija was redhead edgy dude, and then you guys know the other two.
all I gotta say is stick to Levi, bro.
Yeah. Well, if they would have gave him more of a personality in the fucking thing, maybe it would have been better. Yeah. So I guess to like explain the kaiju eugenesis is essentially the only reason they do it is because they're like
It's hard to explain because they didn't
they
explain
kind
it
of don't.
themselves.
They're just
really.
pretty much like because kaiju exist, they want to like kill humanity, and I guess it's because like they were revived that they essentially like make that their purpose.
And
of
don't
it.
ask about the revival. Don't ask about any of that shit because no one knows a fucking thing.
Yeah.
Not a clue. They were just revived after 5,000 fucking years.
Yeah, so it's like it's probably like
And that's
focus-
the
to get
end of
off
the anime. No answers are fucking here. Y'all have a good one.
I'd like
Honestly,
to say
dude, like,
there
it's
is,
it's
that's-
so hard for me to explain a lot of this shit because there was no
I
explanation.
think
Like,
that's
I'm
kinda where,
struggling.
like, I want to get to the point of like let's explain like the characters and the redeeming quality of it because like that never really gets answered. All you figure out about that is that fucking Galma killed the eugenicist for an unknown reason because like I
He
think he was,
betrayed
like-
them because he was,
was, like,
one.
Yeah, and something of like they wanted to destroy the planet, but he was in love with the princess, and so he didn't want to destroy the planet, and so he fucking killed them, and then he died.
By the way, don't ask who the princess is because we don't fucking know that either.
Yeah, so it gets into that whole thing, and so like I said, you have to focus on like the redeeming quality of it because you get a lot of backstory of the characters, like Yomogi and Yume, and how they like interact with each other. And then you find out that like her sister was in a chorus club and that she was fucking bullied and shit like that. And they think like, oh, she died in an accident, but they think it might be suicide.
And I think that's what you meant with like, you know, there's the slice of life side and then the mech side, where the mech side contains the
really
mechs,
care.
the kaiju, and the eugenesis, where nothing fucking matters.
Yeah.
And then the slice of life, where you're getting these four, you know, current day people. And I'll throw Galma in there since he's
I'll throw Galma in there.
associated. But then you get to see their relationship bloom and, you know, their struggles with their past. And, you know, that's the interesting side. So if you compartmentalize it into the whole mech side, I mean, other than
Like I
the
said,
great
I think-
animation,
I
is
think if
fucking
you're-
trash.
I think if you're watching it for like more mech and like the story about the mech, you're not gonna get it. And I think it's just stupid to focus on almost.
Yeah,
which is kind of shitty because that's what I was
Because it
looking
makes
forward
no
to.
sense.
I was looking forward to it
Yeah.
because, you know, and then, you know, cool, giant mechs fighting.
Yeah,
like,
it's-
there's
and
got to
they
be
look
more.
cool.
There's got to be more to this, and then you find out, wow, there's really not more to this. But like you said, there are redeeming qualities of it, and if you focus on the redeeming qualities of it, then like it's decent. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, you basically have like this whole story of like they're trying to figure out like like what led to Yume's sister's death and stuff like that, and she's talking to like different people from the chorus club to like find out that she was bullied and stuff like that, and then
Then you
you know
see Yomogi kind of blossom more as like
yeah, he's
I
like
guess
her rock, kind of like he's supporting her
yeah.
emotionally, even though he's kind of like I said, he's a normal kid, but he's also like he's kind of like cold in a way.
It's a lot of it's the characters like discovering more about themselves and
Yeah,
like being more open and stuff like
yeah,
that. I guess that's where the
yeah.
emotional side of the
Uh-huh.
kaiju pops in
Mhm.
because like they're opening up more emotionally and figuring out more
Yeah.
about themselves and they try to tie that into the whole mech side of things, which in my
It's
opinion
just
just
so
did
small.
not
It's such a
it
small
it,
part of
it,
it.
it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because other than them
There's
saying that, like
only
it didn't actually work. I think
there's only like one time where it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
the only time it worked in my opinion was Chise with Goldblum.
Well, I would say also like that like the fight later on. So like with
Yeah.
like basically it gets to the point to where like I'm trying to like think of like without
I
summarizing
think
it
the
too much.
last two fights it kind of made more of a difference.
So like to summarize like that, so you have like Yume and then Yomogi together, right? So basically like figuring out that whole thing, and they're kind of like figuring out their relationship together because he's kind of like, well, she's fucking weird, so like I don't really know how to act around her and stuff like that. But he's like, I'll just be there kind of like to support her. And then you have like Koyomi and then Chise, which they have like a weird relationship. So you're trying to like figure out like why they are how they are, and then
Remember their cousins.
yeah, and then they're cousins. So you're like, please don't get weird. And that's pretty
And
much
it
all I thought
doesn't.
the whole time. I was like, please don't
Thank
get
goodness
weird,
it doesn't.
and it doesn't somehow. And so like then you get like Koyomi side of things where he's like, he's basically been like a loser, and then he runs into that girl.
Who is Yomogi's boss?
And yeah, that's where I said it ties in. It ends up being Yomogi's boss, and she's a married woman. And then I guess they have a backstory of where she had like randomly found like a bunch of money in a suitcase. And she was like, yeah, we should just like run away together. And he's
he
like,
ran away by
fuck,
himself.
that could be someone's money. And then he runs away by himself. And then that kind of leads to his backstory of like why he like regrets that he didn't make that decision. And he's like, I guess he's afraid of that, I guess. Like, I don't know, making like hard decisions, I guess is the way to say it.
Afraid of the confrontation of what might happen.
Yeah, of like, so like, what if it doesn't go your way type thing,
I wouldn't even say that. I think it's more of just. It's hard to see where that would tie in with the way he is now. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, he's running away from seemingly this girl who has a bag of money. He doesn't know where it came from.
Yeah.
And again, this is kind of hard because that's all you know. You don't know where it came from. You don't know any of the backstory of the relationship before. If this girl is fucking known for being shisty or whatever. So it's like, why would running away from a situation like that? Granted, he probably liked her, but why would it,
Yeah, lead to that? Well, I mean, like I said, there's like different things. Cause like that's like a separate cultural thing, I guess, in like Japan, I would say.
It could be.
Because it's like, I don't know.
It's just hard for me to connect those dots.
Yeah,
like to be bedridden for seemingly no reason.
They just, I don't know. It's probably just like the type of anime that I've seen because like they describe like people like that as like they call it like a NEET, which is like basically they're not in school, they're not in like job training,
right?
And so that like leads them to like be dependent on their parents and stuff like that. And that like happens because basically they don't need to focus on that.
Right.
Yeah. So you get like that. So that's like the big backstories that come along. It's like his interactions with it, and then I think they like hang out one time too, and then she like brings her husband.
Yeah, they go out to dinner one time, and he gets shit faced because he feels so like awkward almost because he's a hermit, And then she brings her husband, and then he's just like, "Wow, that was fucking stupid of me. Why'd I go out and like." Why'd she even invite me out if she's married and happy? And
why would she lead me on?
Yeah.
Did we explain how Dynazenon was split amongst everyone?
Oh yeah, so he's like do that real fast if you want.
Yeah, just
so it's just they're basically like different types of like some are vehicles, I guess, but then there's one's like a dinosaur. So Yomogi's got Dynastriker, which is like a fucking T-Rex. Then you have
Dyna Soldier.
Dynadivers. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Dynastriker's the car. Yeah. So Koyomi has Dynastriker, which is it's a big car. Galma has
Big old Hot Wheels.
Dynadiver, which is just, I guess it's like a boat submarine kind of.
The most useless thing you could
and then,
have in a city.
Trying to fucking remember, is it
Dino Wing?
Dino Wing, yeah, Dino Wing, which is just basically like pterodactyl fucking looking thing.
Yeah,
in a way, but it's more like a glider thing.
Yeah, so it's in the same respects as a Mechazord, where they can all transform into Dynazenon, or different variations of like 2 or 3 of the different, rather than all of them together. Like I think you have Dino Wing Soldier, and
like they can combine separately as well as like together to create Dynazenon. That's the only yeah. So back away from the mech, because the mech part is so.
I just want to explain it because in the part coming up, it kind of plays a role.
Yeah, because it does like tie back with it.
Yeah, because he loses. Yeah. Anyways, continue, good sir.
Yeah, so you're basically having those 2 parts. I would say Konomi's part's a little like less in it, because like other than the part to where they're like, I think they get to a part where they're like, oh, don't you just like fighting the kaiju like with Dynazenon? Like, isn't that your whole reason essentially? And then I'm pretty sure that gets to the point to where like they're like wrecking the city fucking basically. And then he's like, like, do you like see what happens in the wreckage? And then his like Yomogi's boss's husband is like in the wreckage of a car. And so Koyomi sees that, is like, that's that guy's car.
Yeah. And also, you mind if I cut in real quick? Yeah. Not to be rude. Yeah, at that same, when she brought her husband to that dinner, like, I guess he'd got super drunk and depressed because he cares about her, and she apparently complains about her husband to him, and then he shows up, and
he's like a nice guy.
He's a nice guy, and he's like, "What? I'm so confused. What's going on? Like, I don't like. Why is he's pretty much just fucking out of it?" But he runs into Mugina, which is one of the Eugenists, the female one, and
oh yeah,
pretty much does the whole, we're kind of the same. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I have there's no interest in anything. So like, oh yeah, we're similar in that way. So it almost seems like they had that weird bond, and he let his guard down because he'd also been drinking too. And just leaves his little Dynastriker, because when they're not using it, it's pretty much like a toy form.
Yeah.
So she steals it and, takes it back to the rest of the Eugenists. And then you get a cool little receipt, like get it back montage thing. Not montage, but scene.
Yeah, where he like sticks up for himself and like tackles her. And shit.
Yeah, it tackles her, and then Gamma, turns Dynastriker into its full form, and then the whole building collapses on them, and they escaped. But anyways, I just wanted to add that little portion in. So sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine. I'm trying to think like where. Like I'm thinking, I got distracted a little bit.
I'm sorry. You were talking about shit. No, I don't even remember. Oh, no. This is a great podcast, guys. We're doing great.
Yeah, we're keeping it together.
I mean, as much as we can with a story that has so many loose ends,
Because I mean, like you don't want like you don't need like every detail of it, because like I said, the other parts to it are like.
Well, I think the slice of life part is important. Yeah. Like, and I think that portion kind of solidified both of their change. Because it kind of gives you a barometer, like towards the end, like they both don't care about like anything in that moment, but at the end they're both pretty passionate. I think that's the biggest takeaway from that. Because honestly, I thought they were gonna have some weird like enemies, but care about each other after the end of the thing. And I thought
they were gonna be a thing.
I did too, and I was kind of rooting for it, but
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever. But
And even towards the end, she was like, "I despise you no matter what." She's like, "Bitch."
it's like, okay,
Yeah.
so
Like you're
you
real
know,
cool.
because in her group, she's kind of like, I'm down with whatever you guys decide, and he's kind of the same way.
Yeah, he
So
doesn't. He doesn't really make.
at the end of it, they both get a little more passionate on their sides, so they become a little more intense towards each other, even though there was that weird, like, little tense, you know, connection, I guess. So just for the slice of life part, that's the only reason I really wanted to, make that apparent.
Yeah.
But now it's picking up where we left off, and fuck if I remember.
Yeah, because like I said, it kind of gets to like a weird point of it as well. 'Cause like I said, you pretty
Yeah.
much have like these like generic kaiju as well, like going around.
Oh, you were talking about him saving the husband from the wreckage.
Yeah, so
There we
that's
go.
like
My big brain came back.
that's like a good like emotional turn for him, and that's kind of where he's like, oh, I saved someone that I think that I hate and stuff like that, and like he's talking to like Galma about that, and then they pretty much they have like a small bonding moment of that of like why they do like what
I know
they
why.
do.
I know why, because I remembered why at least, because at the dinner the lady was asking him, his former whatever the fuck that bitch is. He was like, or she was like, "What do you do? Are you like, what do you do for work or something like that?" And he lied because he's unemployed.
Yeah, he's like,
and he
oh,
was
I
just
help
like,
people.
Yeah, he's like, you can just say I help people, and then that popped up in his head while he saw the husband like in the wreckage. So he's like, I need to help him. Boom.
And the thing about this series that kind of bothers me is that's the only like time they acknowledge that people get hurt during these mech fights.
Yeah.
Like, you see
That's like
you see
the one,
buildings
yeah.
get fucking tossed.
Yeah.
You don't see any news reviews other than kaiju were fighting. Other than traffic was a little backed up.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
I guess like
millions of people fucking dying.
I guess like the best way to describe it, because I think they do like bring it up a little bit, because they're like, Yume takes Yomogi at one point to like the wreckage, and she's like, just think of like how much worse it would have been.
Yeah, that's
Like,
right. They did go to the wreckage once.
Yeah, and I think that's like the way they do it without like showing how bad it is and like focusing on that part. And of like, like literally if we let them do this, they would destroy all of the world. So they do like they have like kind of like their like classmates gossip about it, like, oh, I heard that her fucking apartment building was destroyed, blah blah, and they like, it's like outside of that fact of it.
Yeah, they don't talk about like people dying or anything like that though. You know what I mean? Like Doug said, they literally get tossed into buildings and like crumble them and shit like that.
Yeah, and their physics don't really make sense either. Buildings crumble; they don't just topple over. Either way, that's just more of a minor thing that I just want to complain about at this point.
I'm trying to think, because they and then is this where the like little weird kaiju comes in?
Yeah,
this is like the paint one, right?
Yeah,
like they try to like, because I was trying to think, because like I was like reading like the synopsis just in case to make sure that I'm fucking on track. And they capture this like weird fucking paint spewing one that looks like a weird standing up slug thing. And they're basically like, Gamma was a kaiju user, so he's like, I'll just fucking dominate it, right? Which sounds weird in context.
It's a kaiju, we kill it.
Yeah.
And he's like, but then the discussion of some kaijus have hearts, and they're only bad when the eugenists kind of
control them,
and dominate or whatever.
So that gets like them thinking of like why, like
why are we doing this?
Why do we do it? And he's like, well, it's because like we're trying to fuck up the world. And so like Yomogi has like a small like reaction to it, but he doesn't really know what it is like when he does it.
Oh, because they're trying to do the instance domination.
Yeah, it's where they do it, and he like kind of has something, and they're like, oh shit, he knows how to do it, and then they're like, he's faking it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I'll just keep it as a pet, and then of course it gets gigantic, and then fucking starts destroying the city.
Yeah.
Because they're saying it grows off
Oh.
of like people's emotions.
Yeah, and this is like where they get like that part of like they're
All
born
right.
of human emotions, and then
I'm gonna
why they should
pause
kill
one
them.
more time. Sorry.
Are we talking about Knight? Because I was gonna get
Yeah, he came before this because he helps, he helps get
just a
that
better way
that
of tying
kaiju
it in
deck.
and going like, this is Knight, this is a story, but like actually, here's
There
all
is
this
there's
other
no
shit.
story. There's no story, but I think
There's
it's
literally-
interesting how they introduce him. Like it's in the middle of a kaiju fight,
Yeah,
and they have this really
they're
big.
getting their shit fucked up.
Yeah, they have this really big foo dog looking mech, and two people are using it rather than just one at a time. So it's a little more challenging to beat. And I think they're having like emotional stress at the time
Yeah, of like everything
because I mean
going
that's
on.
that's just their characters at the point in the story.
Yeah, and like Yume's going through like her shit about like her sister, and then like Yomogi's worried about her and everything
Yeah.
like that, and then so they're like emotionally just rocked, and they have to deal with this shit going on as well.
Yeah.
And then
so
then you get Knight in there who like he's like, this guy's gonna save us and help us, and they like beat the fucking mech's ass too.
yeah, so he's introduced just as a mech. He just falls from the sun, it seems like, and then just starts fighting this big eugenist mech, and ends up damaging it, but not killing it necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, because the kaiju eugenists were like, we're gonna lose at this point. There's no point in losing this kaiju. It's pretty strong. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Away, and then they're looking for it.
Yeah, and then Knight starts attacking Dynazenon, and pretty much, that
that goes to like the whole thing of like they like he doesn't know like what their motives are, and then like I forgot what the girl's name is.
Well, so there's a big debate like in the story at this point if Dynazenon's even a kaiju.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one that's like has like Megazord parts. You know what I'm saying? Like it almost seems like just a mech, not a kaiju.
Yeah.
But Gamma's like, no, it's kaiju. But who the fuck really knows? And don't ask me why. Don't ask me what it really is, because I don't fucking know. But so the Dynazenon ends up getting like injured, like the actual mech gets hurt. So the eugenists retreated with theirs, and since they're all kaiju users, they can apparently just use their mind power to fix it. And since Dynazenon, none of them are actual kaiju users, they have to rely on. I think they said it would heal on its own. I don't really remember.
It was something of like weird. Like they were like, it's not going to.
I wouldn't think so,
like,
because maybe if it was an actual kaiju, it would heal on its own, and maybe the kaiju users can like promote the speed of that.
Yeah, I
don't know. They glazed over it.
I think that ties in with something like later, if I remember it. So
yeah,
but
either way,
like Yomogi and Knight are together looking for this thing because they were like, "Yo, you should have killed it," and then he like kept them, and they escaped again, right? So they're like together, and this is where they're all like separated. And so like mainly like the stronger the kaiju get, they like need to be combined. So like their separate mechs can't defeat like certain things, right?
Right.
And so like Yomogi and Knight go together as like so it's like Dynasoldier, and then I think is it just
So no. So what happens is Knight will just go into his regular form, and Dynasoldier will turn into like a gun.
Yeah, because like his
Knight will
is
use
Grid
him as a
Knight,
gun.
right? That's what they call
Grid
it.
Knight, yeah.
And then so like he turns into, I think it's like called like Dynamic Cannon or something like that.
Dynacannon.
When they
Dynacannon.
when they combined. And so that's that part where like you also have like fucking Yume's in like the mall, isn't she?
Yeah, she's in the mall with Chise. Chise ends up getting out.
Yeah.
And Yume ends up getting kind of stuck in there, and on top of that, she drops her Dyna Wing like off like a story or two. And so she has to be able to go retreat that also.
So this, of course, the Kaishu's like, I'm gonna destroy this mall.
Yeah.
And then so he's like to that point, and then Yomogi tries to dominate it.
Because he doesn't want to kill it, because he's thinking
he's
if
still
it has
confused
a heart,
about like why. Like I don't understand what these things are.
Me too, man. Me too. I don't get it, but whatever.
And yeah, and basically it's fucking like, oh god, and then fucking
He
wrecks
starts
this thing
thinking
with
about Yume, and then,
yeah.
at the end of the day, there's a mall full of people. This giant kaiju's climbing on top of it.
I'm like,
You
yo, I
know,
gotta like
you
protect her
gotta get rid of
because
it.
fucking
Yeah.
yeah. And then he hits it with like this giant fire blast fucking thing, which was kind of cool.
Well, did you
Yeah.
guys talk about how Yamogi was like trying to do instance domination also before that?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like
He
that's why
tried,
that's like when I
and
say dominate, and that's like
Okay.
for the
so
little thing, and then he tries it again, and then
he
The
gets
had
hit
eye
with
that
like
popped
a
little
out.
weird
glimmer in his eye,
yeah.
but I guess he just wasn't strong enough, so...
Yeah,
The
and he
eye
gets like
popped
this
out of
weird like feeling in him to that, and then he's just like, oh, I'm just gonna kill this thing.
Yeah,
I'm
the eye
gonna...
popped. Well, the eye popped out of the kaiju's mouth, remember, and like
Yeah.
looked him dead in the fucking eyes,
Yeah.
and then he was like, "Yo, burn this motherfucker."
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I'm gonna want to pull the reverse card one more time. Sorry, it's I remembered something else. So before all of this even happened, and I believe this fight, but this is when Yume and Yamogi went and met with her sister's like ex-boyfriend,
His name's Futaba.
Futabo, football.
I literally
Yeah,
just said
and
it, Futaba.
all right, Tyler, I'm kind of done with your sass at this point.
Futaba.
So,
You're like football.
football. But yes, so they end up having a conversation, and it was very unfruitful, like because through all the research and going through the choir people, like before that, she talked to someone who said, there was a rumor that she committed suicide, and after talking to Futabo, he pretty much said, nah, she wasn't that type of person to do it. So I think all the conflicting emotions between all that, which was really took a toll on Yume. And I believe that's a big reason that they were really fucking sucking in that fight. Because
Well, that was like the whole thing. Is she's like breaking down, and then they're like, "There's a fucking kaiju," and he's like, "Now," and then she's
Yeah,
like,
he-
"Leave, I'll catch up," and then she's like all fucked up.
Yeah,
And
he
then
said that. He's like, "What a time."
yeah, and then like so he goes, and then he's like, "Where's Yume?" And he's like, "She's supposed to be right behind me." And then Galma's like, "Go get her. You're the only one that can fucking do this."
yeah.
And then that's kind of where he gets his whole thing, and then fucking like goes back to her and gets her.
Okay, so I think I have my timeline messed up.
Yeah, probably.
And sorry for that, because after that, she's sitting on the floodgate, and then, that's when Goldburn is there also and gets his debut. And I think that all happened after.
That's after, yeah. So the
Yeah,
part
so-
is he does the thing at the mall, and so that's part of like where she's like, well, shit, like Yomogi, dog, you're looking kind of good, and fucking
Yeah,
save
there's
the
definitely a
mall, and it's
bond.
like nice, you're fucking cool.
You're getting a romantic bond between Yamogi and Yume, seemingly. Or
Yeah.
maybe that's just what I want in my
It's
head.
like-
And I'm trying to will it onto him, but whatever.
I mean, it kind of is because it's like to the point to where it's like like oh, he legitimately cares. He's not just faking it, stuff like that. And then it gets to that point, and then you get like I mean, it's kind of like a weird part after that because they're like Chise's just like, what's this fucking weird dragon thing?
Well, she was carrying around the seed with her that entire time. It
Yeah.
showed like
Yeah, it
every
was
now
Now,
like-
where
and
did
then.
she even get this seed? I don't
She
remember
found it
that.
at the
She found
beginning.
it on the ground.
Yeah, like when
And she was
like
just
the
like,
first...
I'm going to keep the seed.
Yeah, it was weird.
Maybe it'll turn into my own,
Kind of looks like a
Vash the Stampede.
kind of looks
Looks like
like
a
a
little
weird.
bean.
I was gonna say something else. I was gonna say it looks like a fucking frozen thing of sperm that keeps growing.
Yeah,
So-
like a lima bean.
You find out that's where the kaiju come from, though. It's because the eugenicists were dropping those around the city, and that's what they actually grow from. And Chise happened to pick one up, so she actually
I would assume that
ends
also
up getting a kaiju.
Yeah, I would assume that also comes from like that so like Koyomi gets like sucked into like Dynazenon is like part of that, and I think part of that comes from like jealousy in a little bit.
Yeah.
because she's very like in tune with them of like, like she has the ability to like control Soldier
Yep.
and shit like that. So I think it's like in a way like it grew from her emotion of like wanting to be a part of the team
Yep. And
and
then
like that.
and the thing with
Is that
Goldburn,
what you
which
got
is like,
from it?
Yeah, that's how I felt.
and the thing with Goldburn too is like, so Goldburn's like this little gold dragon mech that comes from the little
Pretty
seed
tight.
that Chise picks up, and the thing that's conflicting with them after that point is like Goldburn actually listens to Chise, and Goldburn actually reacts based off of Chise's emotions.
Yeah, and
So
she's
like,
like, oh, so he can kind of make his own decisions, but he's like based off of that.
yeah, and then they're like, okay, so all kaiju like aren't
Aren't
actually
evil.
like, yeah, aren't horrible.
Yeah.
And it's just
It's all
another one of
about how
those.
you raise them.
It's just like another one of those like, why are we doing this kind of fucking
Mhm.
thing popping in.
Yeah, so I'm thinking,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think I also messed up like mine a little bit as well, because like that goes with the floodgate part of like to where he sends him back for her, like after, because she like I think she like doesn't show up on one, like after the mall thing, and then so like basically they're like it's like with Goldburn, and then she's like a fucking part of that, and like Chise I think is like walking, and then she sees Yume on the floodgate, so she like goes up there to like see it, and then it's like fucking I can't remember, does like Goldburn fucking like come at him?
Yeah, so Dynasoldier's going back to get Yume,
Yeah,
and
this is like the in between of it, which is like
yeah,
that it like lines up like that, but it ends up doing that.
and Chise's there before him. He's just going to get her.
Mm-hmm.
Then you see Goldburn kind of fly towards them,
Yeah,
almost in like it looks like he's attacking, but I mean, you find out it's probably more of a defense thing.
yeah.
Um,
Oh no, it's because wasn't there a kaiju? Like there was a kaiju that was gonna attack him too. I think that's what it was. That like Goldburn was like going for the like kaiju.
I don't think so.
I can't.
I think he was just there, and then I think Yomogi saw another kaiju, so he kind of just body checked him
Yeah, that's what I'm
and
saying.
punched him to the side,
Yeah,
and then somehow like Yume drops her like little hand puzzle thing and falls off.
yeah, and then like, dives for it.
Yeah, and that's when Goldburn comes and is like, "Hey, I'm here to save you."
Yeah, because like so they have that moment of like fucking Yomogi's like, I'm gonna reach and grab her, and then he like barely misses, and then Goldburn's like, psych dog, I got her.
Yeah, and then after everything, Jesus like, oh yeah, Goldburn's good. He's mine.
He's also like pretty cool.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. 3 people almost just died, but it's all good.
Yeah, it is what it is. And then fucking then they all go back to fucking like, oh shit, we forgot about the rest of the team. We gotta go back and save them. And this is where they do their like ultimate form, essentially. Which was it? I forget, like I think it's like Kaiser Grid Knight or something like that. I think
it's a long name.
It's like super long, but the short version is like Kaiser Grid Knight or something like that.
Yeah, Super Draga, Dynazenon Grid Kaiser Gridman. What? Who cares? Who really cares? It's just a name.
Kaiju 2,
you get the idea.
Boogaloo.
If you really want to know, watch it. You suffer like we did.
Yeah. Of the mech part. Honestly, the mech part is such like you're like fuck. Like every time you have to explain the mech part, we're like fuck.
Dude, anytime I have to explain a lot of this, anytime I have to explain a lot of this shit, I'm just like, yo, what the fuck are these people gonna think?
If it was literally just the slice of life shit, I'd be fine. Like it'd be fine. But I don't have to fucking add in random words of fucking Kaiser shit. Kaiser roll, fucking
French baguette.
Yeah, fuck. And yeah, so that's kind of like another point of like Yomogi and Yume. I think is like a lot of good part to focus on. And
at this point, they're kind of relying on.
There's also there's like that to where they're like kind of like supporting each other in separate ways. And then I think like Chise also brings up at like one point of like like he ran in to save you. And like, why do you not know what you have, essentially?
Yeah.
And then finally, I think is when we finally get like the fucking good kaiju out of this. So
Yeah,
like
I believe that's when
they do like their slice of life, and they're like fucking, we can make this festival, and then they get there too late, and then they do like their like little, because they always got to have a fireworks thing.
they do their own version of
Typical
it to
summer of
really
like we're
kind of
friends. Yeah.
yeah, and it really shows their bonds with each other, and people are opening up more. Yume actually left and came back to get all festive, and
Yeah.
I think that was supposed to symbolize her comfortability
Yeah, with like
and
the
her
group.
like letting her like walls down a bit,
Yeah.
because this was the girl that would break a promise, which at least it kind of explains that, even
Yeah,
though it
like
doesn't
the
give
way
you
she is.
everything you want.
Yeah.
But it kind of explains that, when we'll get to that soon. But it kind of just shows like the group bonding, and kind of just makes you as the watcher feel like, oh, I really like this group of people, because for one, this is the slice of life part that actually has you, still kind of wanting to watch the show, and it's just a good scene to have, even with random characters just showing, like Knight, just no backstory, is just there. And can I just say, why is he the only motherfucker that can just turn into a mech?
Yeah, I think that's when like I said that it's Grid Night, so I think like that might be like a thing that ties in, but I'm also not really sure.
Yeah,
So
He,
from
he is he is Grid Knight. They even say it that he turns into the mech. He is the mech.
Yeah, but like I went to
Yes.
go look up like Grid Night, like the show, and there was no person named Knight in there.
Yeah, no. The other show is SSSS Gridman, not Grid Knight.
Gridman. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like,
And it
does
kind of looks
tie
like
in
an
with that?
Ultraman. It kind of looks like an Ultraman rather than a
Yeah, like that looks like
Gridman
Grid
looks.
Knight, so that's why I was confused, I guess.
It might be. Who the fuck knows,
I don't
man?
know. Like that, I don't know. They say they don't tie in, so like, why would we? That's why we didn't watch the other one first. Fuck.
But it's a sequel, so I don't know.
Well, it's not like it's like an alternate universe of it, basically. Yeah, so you get it's kind of like, I guess it's like random kaiju essentially. It's like pops up. The eugenicists try to control it, and then they all just disappear. And so like you're having like they're chilling and stuff like that, and they're fucking everyone's just disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they start disappearing, and then it turns out, Yamogi's the last one to kind of disappear. And actually, I don't even think he disappears. I think he jumps into the mech's mouth, and kind of initiates his own.
That's where it goes. Like I said, like everyone's disappearing, and then fucking Goldberg, I think, like protects his Chise, and then whatever that fucking girl's name is, that's with Knight, and that he's like, oh,
I think her name is Second.
That would make more sense.
It's weird
because she has
they
like a
said
weird name.
They called it at the last two episodes. It was like, oh hey, Second.
Yeah,
it's like, what the fuck kind of name is that? But
yeah, so like he does that, and then that goes back to the thing of like Yomogi gets into his head of like he's kind of indifferent about like everything with like Dynazenon, and then he like kind of finds his reason to do it, and that goes where it's like you're the only one that can do it, and he's like, well, if I'm the only one, like I have to do it, essentially.
Yeah, because destruction, people get hurt and die, even though they don't say die.
Like it
but
has,
we all know what's really going on.
Like it has a reaction. Like if you don't do anything, it has a reaction on you, and it kind of makes your life worse. Just kind of like how I see it.
Yeah, because then you have to carry the guilt of not doing it.
You can't say anything about it if it happens. And so it's essentially like a memory fucking monster, because it can take you into the past, which is interesting.
But it gives you control over the past too. Yeah. I think that's kind of cool. Like I think they executed that part pretty well, because they kind of put your current mind in your past body, and you can make the different decisions, like your regrets and all that, and kind of go the other way with them. And that's how you learn about Yume and what happened with her sister, and Kiyomi and what happened with the one lady.
Yeah,
that's
Yomogi's boss. Just like
and I mean, honestly, to me, it still didn't answer many questions, but at least you can kind of
shows their like regrets of things.
Yeah, and you get to see a resolution, at least in their eyes, even if it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I would say like at least that helps to be like, oh well, this is like how they feel inside, and Yomogi gets to that point where he's seeing all of this.
I think it's literally kind of just to be like, because they say the kaiju like and like their fighting is like powered off of their emotions. I think it's just like you said, kind of like resolution and like closure, and it helps them kind of like, I guess, bond more and fight better, I guess.
Yeah, and like they also see like say like if they had like changed it, kind of like the route that it would have been, of like had they decided on it. So I think like like Yume gets to talk to her sister because that's the main thing of like she doesn't know what happened.
Yeah, that was my biggest interest in this whole thing.
And
is
like I
sister
said, like
resolution.
the one like I said, I always bring up like Yomogi and Yume is like they're the big ones. They're like the main thing that I would think that even makes a story decent.
Yeah.
And so like she gets to like talk to him and like talk about like it was like a little bit of bullying, but like and then like Futaba and like everything like that, like her boyfriend, like supported in that, and she's like, like I wasn't suicidal, essentially.
Yeah.
And then I think they also do like they have like a tip to it, and I think it like when Yume like dove after the puzzle thing. I always thought that was like a tip to like what her sister might have done.
Yeah.
Right.
And like that's like part of the accident thing. Like it was an accident because she like went for that because it was like in her hand too.
It slipped out
at the funeral. So at the funeral, like that thing was like in her hand. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And like that, so it made it look like it tied into like it's kind of like an accident, but you weren't sure.
Yeah. Still.
And
not.
so like that's kind of like what they tilt at, I guess. And then like then you have Koyomi, he like runs away with her and like with the bag of money and everything like that. And then you also get to see Galma's part of like him betraying all of them.
Koyomi's was a good part though, because I think the reason he ran away initially was because he thought it was something bad or illegal. But when he went the other way, they kind of just threw the money in the wind, and it kind of seemed like, oh well, we could have been together if I went this way with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like the money was the important part. It was the being together that was. So I kind of enjoyed that little arc also.
And like, then you have like Yomogi fucking like basically like breaking through the barrier, which I think is like symbolic as well. Because it's almost like
I did not recognize him in that last episode.
Yeah, like
breaking through the glass.
Yeah, like a glass structure of like that, and he's like, like breaking through to it.
Yeah.
And so he pretty much rescues like everyone out of there.
Yep.
And then they do their fucking typical fucking ultimate form with Goldberg.
Yep.
And pretty much fucking that, and then the resolve. She's better, kind of accepting it more, and then it's pretty much like that episode, I would say.
Yeah, and then that's the 11th episode, and on the 12th episode, you get a little surprise from Shizumu. Sorry, I don't know his name. It's not in front of me. But
Braid Boy.
Yeah, Braid Boy.
And he's been following Yogami and Yume throughout pretty much the whole time that they were introduced, because he went to their school as like an exchange student, which we glazed over because honestly it wasn't that important.
I also forgot like
we can
where that part was,
because
that goes with the whole like there's a little bit of fan service in there, and that's where like they go to like the water park. There's like a kaiju attack like near the water park.
Yeah.
And that's where you get like random scenes of like them bonding, and then that damn churro scene.
Galma getting yelled at for running, the churro scene, and I mean throughout this whole series, the eugenists are kind of trying to get close to everyone except for Galma, because Galma just does not like them.
Mm-hmm.
And
like trying to like figure out why and shit like that, and then they're like, oh
well, just like everyone else.
They're like, well, they're not that bad, and they're like, well, we just do it because
they're not until they start taking over kaiju and destroying cities, and then it's like, okay, I see where they're bad, but
and it's like the same thing. It's like, well, don't you just pilot the thing because you like to fight?
All I'm saying is these kaiju eugenists are pretty much the Westboro Baptist Church at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just pretty bland too. At that point, it's like, oh wow, crazy.
Yeah,
like you keep taking over monsters. Yeah, you're crazy.
Never would have guessed.
Yeah, just because they treat this kaiju thing like a religion,
Mhm.
like it's like their belief system. Like no slight to anyone with their own beliefs, but when it like harms people, I mean, fuck it, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's not, believe what you want. I don't
Yeah.
care, but
Yeah. Doug's
not
on
everyone
a
has to
rant.
sit there and accept it
Yeah.
either.
Doug's on a rant. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to cover my bases before we get canceled.
Yeah. Well, I figure that we'll just get a little bit of vacation. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, because that's at the point where like I think there's like a 3-month like stretch or something like that. If I remember right, because they're like, not a lot of kaiju around, eh? And they're like, fuck.
Um.
They're like, fuck.
Well.
I think we're running. We don't have any.
Yeah.
No, the 3 months. The 3 months after was.
Oh, maybe
that was
it's like,
after the
maybe it's
last.
That
like
was at the
3
end.
weeks. There's like
Yeah.
a little bit of like time in between because they're like, there's like
So,
there's no
the,
fucking kaiju.
Yeah, kaiju aren't there, so it kind of shows them all doing their own thing. And then, of course, I'm just gonna skip forward a little bit because it's not none of
It's
it's
literally
really
not that
important. Yumogi and Yume, they have an emotional moment, and Yumogi's like, "Hey, Yume, I like you. Will you go out with me?" And then, of course, Braid Boy butts in. "Oh yes, I knew I hung around you guys for a reason."
Yeah, it's like
Blah 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 blah. And then he goes to attack
you gotta
Yumogi
love how little Brave Boy just ruins the fucking moment.
for real. And then so Braid
He
Boy goes
got
to
blocked a
attack.
couple of times throughout the series.
He goes to attack Yamogi, and then Gama pops up out. Oh yeah, we also forgot to mention that Gama's getting like
Oh yeah,
unconditionally
like, sick,
like beyond sick because he's not okay. So the way they explain it is the kaiju eugenists are like almost eternal because
they're like respawn through like I think it's like basically like a spell.
Yeah, because they got revived and whatnot, and then Gama's just considered a normal human being, and his body is essentially decaying because it's been 5,000 years, so he's really sick.
Yeah, it's also I think another way they describe it too is like that he is like part kaiju as well.
Yeah.
So he's like combined with that. So he like you said, his body is decaying.
So anyways, they know that Gama's sick. They don't have to fight kaiju though because there hasn't been any. Braid Boy cockblocks fucking Yamogi and goes to attack him. Gama pops up out of nowhere, blocks the attack, and he's like, "Yo, this is fucked up. What's going on?" And then Braid Boy is actually a kaiju. He turns into one.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I have one inside me," and they're like, "What?"
Yeah, behold the final battle of the series. Everybody
pretty
gets
cool
back.
looking kaiju too.
Yeah, everybody gets.
You also have like the sad part of like where you're like, "Fuck, Gama's gonna die."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody essentially bands back together. After doing their own thing. Not everybody's together, but they see a kaiju pops up, so everybody meets up and gets together. Goldburn comes in with them also, and they all have this ultimate final combined form with Grid Knight, Goldburn, and Dynazenon.
Yeah, I think this is like because like they're all like separate, and Knight takes control of Dynazenon. He's like, "Oh, I could probably fucking combine and fight this motherfucker myself."
He's getting his shit pushed in.
Yeah, and he's getting his shit pushed in and rocked.
So then they all combine because they see he's not able to do it. And then they're like, "Yo, Gama, you're too weak. You're going to die." And he's like, "Even if I do, don't worry about it." He's like, "I'm fighting for what I believe in, essentially."
Yeah.
And I think this is how they kind of try to tether the mech side with the slice of life side because the tech, the mech side needs the emotional.
Yeah, and like this is really where you get like to the point of like, so like they also like the eugenicists get absorbed into Suzumu as like thing, and they're like, "Yo, we're fucking wrecking his shit," and
let's do it.
Like we have to combine, and that kind of like Gama gets that thing too. Is like he's like weakened, and then he's to that point of like like in the previous episode, he's like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna get to meet the princess," and then he doesn't, and then he kind of realizes that like the reason he's here is like he was supposed to meet the 4 of them to like almost give his life purpose and then like save the world.
So their emotional bonding through this last battle is like their final hurrah with Gama and like just doing it all for each other and all they've been through essentially. So and then they all get the emotional bonding going on. It's like, yeah, friendship power, let's do this. And then they end up fucking destroying the final kaiju.
Yeah, that's where he fucking Yumogi's like he hits the fucking instance domination and it actually works.
Yeah, he hits the instance domination on the other one. Stops them for a brief second, then they go in for the attack.
Also, got to remember too that they're doing like this like laser beam at fucking Yume as well. So
Yeah.
like he's like, oh dog, you're going after my fucking girl.
And then, while they're in the process of being killed essentially by Dynazenon ultimate form, the eugenists are like, oh, I didn't think this is how I was going to die. So hence that them actually dying. And then, yeah, that's essentially the final battle.
Mhm.
And it kind of goes into 3 months later spell that you talked about and shows Yume and Yamogi finally having that emotional breakthrough of being a couple.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and like
Without saying it, but
he's
yeah.
kind of like he's got his loss from like Galma and stuff like that. And then,
it shows,
so it kind of helps like relate Yume and Yomogi better in that way as well.
yep, and then it shows Homeboy applying for jobs and finally doing something with his life.
Who I couldn't even fucking recognize at the end.
I didn't at first.
I
I
was
thought
like,
it was a
who
whole
is
other
that?
character because his
I
hair
thought-
was all slicked back.
I thought it was Fubuko or whatever.
Futaba?
Yes.
Futaba, whatever.
Futaba.
He was in the fucking show for like 5 minutes. Who cares? But yeah, it kind of looked like him at first. I'm like, why the fuck is he here?
Yeah,
like,
I thought that's what I thought it was too, because I was like, what, bro? I'm like, why is Futaba here?
So the
But,
ending
yeah,
of the
it was
show,
cute.
the ending of the show is essentially all of them getting their resolve from everything that happened and what they've been going through, and it's kind of just like, okay, they're emotionally stable now, and like they're not as distraught, and like kind of that's it. Everybody goes on with their lives.
Yeah, and then like so like the part of the other like ending too is so like I think they're at like their like cultural festival, if I remember right. And then so like Yomogi is
it looked like a school event,
helping Yume keep her promises, because like they're supposed to run like I think it's like a cafe type thing, and so like she's like running away from that because she has like a socializing problem, and then he's helping keep her on track for that, and so that kind of shows like that whole thing, and then like they pretty much show that they're a couple in that whole thing. And
then, they're holding hands and whatnot.
Yeah, and the Koyomi and then like Chise thing is so like he gets a job, and then she's like, how many jobs did you get rejected from? And he's like 23 or some shit like that. And then
he ended up getting a job with what's her name's husband.
Yeah, the fucking manager's husband is like, yeah, thanks to him. And it's like, basically she's like, oh, you'll suck up to get that, and he's like, well, yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't really blame him. And then
well, it was a breakthrough for him. He wasn't being so bitter and stuff in the past that he, like you said, that he caused. Yeah, that he caused himself. So.
And then like Chise
ends up going back.
Yeah, she's
ends
like
up going back to
up
school
too randomly.
Yeah.
But he's like, you'll fucking get there. And then like, he's like, I think she was like, I forgot what she said. Something about like being like him. And he's like, don't be like me.
Well, yeah, because she was like, you look silly in that suit.
Yeah.
And then he was like, you look silly in the school uniform. And then she was something about like, maybe one day I'll be like you. And then he's like, yeah, don't be like me.
And I'd say that fucking goes to that point, and then you have like the main thing at the end, which is a little weird. So they fucking take, so like Knight and Second leave like the world, right?
They take over.
Yeah, they decide to fucking pull a Digimon, kinda. So they're like, yeah, we're gonna take Dynazenon and fucking Goldberg, and then so she's like sad about that, and then they like go, and the world pretty much like digitizes away.
Yeah, they open like a portal almost.
Yeah, and then you're like, what the fuck? Like that's confusing.
Yeah.
And then you have fucking like all that stuff happens, so you get to see like everyone's like pretty much ends get tied up. And then it goes to Dynazenon's back in that digital world where it fucking revives and comes back to life, which I think is a hint that Galma is Dynazenon.
Yeah.
And I think that's like where the hint is.
Oh, wow. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, that's why I was like, when I was telling
I think
you guys,
I was just happy it was almost done.
Yeah, I was like telling you guys, like, look at the ending, that I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what it means.
Yeah.
And then that's your fucking ending, and then they're like, hey, there's gonna be a fucking collab between the two series.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
That's Dynazenon.
There it is. As confusing as we made it, trust me, it's just as confusing to us.
Yeah, so I feel like describing this is like also like when I have to describe Evangelion, which is another mech fucking one that's very confusing.
Yeah. That one definitely has its cult following, though.
Mhm. Well, like I said, I think like Dynazenon's new too. So I'm like, I think we've
Yeah.
all said it. Is the better part to focus on is like the slice of life part over the mech part.
Yeah.
And I think like a
Even
lot of that
though,
might be like if they wouldn't have reused everything, we probably would have cared more, or like if they would have upped the stakes a little bit.
Yeah, it was just very transparent as
Yeah.
to what would happen, going to happen at least without the slice. You know,
It
other
just
than
didn't
the
feel
slice of
like
life
the stakes.
aspect of it.
That's all I think about. I was like, there's like no stakes. You're like, that's it. You know,
man,
the biggest stake was like Galma fucking like dying at the end, and I think that's where like his character gets redeemed.
Yeah,
And a lot of like you're like you really don't like him, and he's kind of like annoying a little bit. And then
speak for yourself.
at the beginning, I think he's I don't know a little bit.
I like Galma. He was good comedic relief. At the very least, he was the interesting part of it
Yeah, I
in
get
the
that.
beginning.
It's just like I don't know. It's
yeah.
like I guess I
So,
didn't care about the
For
mech
me.
part, so it, like he was like all about the fucking mech, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care.
Well, he also carried the most energy too, so
Well, you
he
know,
had that.
I don't know what this thing is. Also, I know every move in the book. My boy Lion. And that's why, like, I think like it also ties into that he's Dynazenon because like he knew the moves, so like maybe that's
it's
kinda,
also
like, how it
the
works.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like my Sean and I's fucking convoluted theory together. I think.
I'd agree with that.
Mhm.
I mean,
That would
what
make
other
sense.
reason?
If they said that, I'd be like, okay, so fucking things kind of make sense now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, with this
Right.
series, they just don't explain jack shit.
Yeah, that's my biggest. It's hard to come with any real conclusions because you don't know anything.
Yeah,
That's
You
why I'm
just
gonna.
know what
it definitely
happened
like
in
sets
those
up.
moments.
It definitely feels like it's like setting up a sequel type thing too. So that might be why.
Yeah,
It'll probably be in an alternate universe if they do. I can't see it happening in the same one, but like
and
it.
and
Well,
maybe Gridman
I'm hoping they have both go together. I think that'll be cool.
and maybe Gridman has some answers like for like the past stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to really say because we're
It
kind
could
of starting in the middle of a.
it could kind of be like Death Note and Death Parade in a way.
Yeah, it's got like a
little
little bit, but it's not like a direct sequel. But it does have like a little
It ties in a little
to
bit.
it. Yeah,
Ties in,
that would make sense.
but I mean,
Overall,
honestly, like
I mean, I would just like I said, I would say like average, and then depending on like what you were
I
going into, I think
I'd rate it.
what you were going into of like what you were trying to watch it for, I think can change it.
I didn't know what the fuck to expect in the first place, so I didn't really have expectations going into it.
I had just seen clips, so I was like, this shit looks pretty good, like the animation style. And then I saw that it had a pretty decent rating, so I'm like, all right, I'll fucking run it.
I'll be honest. If it was something like what I was expecting and what I got, I'd say it was probably a little bit better than I was expecting.
Yeah, honestly,
I'm
like,
not a fan of mech anything.
Yeah,
really.
because I'm kind of I think that's why because I'm kind of the same way, and like I've just had like enough of it in a way.
Gurren Lagann's the only mech anime I've thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, and that's like when you think
Yeah.
about like Gurren Lagann as well, like the way they focus on characters is like a lot better, even though like their animation and the fights are way more emotional in that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, dude, like, just this is my opinion. Like, I didn't get much out of this anime. Like, it's honestly like it's there with Death Parade on like
I hate
my
I hate to be like the guy too, but I'm like, fuck, if they made like a spin-off series about just their fucking like slice of life, I'd probably fucking watch that.
yeah. I honestly,
Like,
dude, me
really.
Yeah.
me rating this though, like, I'd give it a 5.5 or a 6.
I was thinking 6.
I'd probably put
For
it
sure.
like maybe like a probably like maybe like a 6.5, 7.
I would not. I don't.
I think it's average.
It's like it was a little below par. Like, just me personally. For me personally,
I would say like
I don't know. Like, they're just.
as a mecha anime, I would fucking probably put it like down there, like fucking 4, 5.
But I can't. But we
Yeah.
can't focus it on one or the
As a
other
whole.
That's
it's
kind of where it
yeah.
comes up to me more because I think it's just like I like Yomogi, and then there was
Yeah,
like
I mean,
enough like comedic
There
relief
are
in it that I liked it.
there are some redeeming qualities to it, but it's not enough. It wasn't enough for it to carry it through with me for me
Yeah.
to be like, oh, I really want to watch this next episode.
Yeah,
Like,
it
was
does-
all.
It did get
It
to
was
that
all
point.
so like you just knew what the fuck was gonna happen, except for the character development,
Yeah, and
which
I think
there wasn't. which there also was not enough of.
I think,
I thought like the character development that they had was pretty decent, but there wasn't enough of it, and the way they just left so much shit in the air and they just threw so much shit at you randomly, like for me, like it's down there so far with Death Parade on like probably like one of my least favorites that we've watched so far. It's a 5.5.
At least like I could find the stuff that I liked in this one, but Death Parade I was literally like I was like gritting my fucking teeth every time I had to watch a fucking episode. I was like, fuck, dude, like I do not want to watch this.
Yeah,
I was like forcing myself to watch it. And I think at least like at certain points I'm like, if I stop focusing on parts, like I could watch the episode and be okay with it. And then like when it got to that one about like the like putting them in their memories, I was like, all right, this is a pretty fucking cool episode, and I was glad that was at the end.
Yeah,
because it kind of was like, okay, well that part was like actually good, not just decent, and then it just finished out with like
I knew it was something I didn't thoroughly enjoy like too much because like I kept finding myself doing other shit while the anime was playing.
I just thought it was gonna be fucking mindless, honestly.
I wasn't sucked into it. I don't know.
I agree.
I'll stand at a 6. Like that's it for me.
Like
I'm agreeing with that just, because
like, anyone's like level of average, and like I said, most of the like my average shit turns out to like a like they don't have a 6.5, so I just fucking it's a 7. Fuck it.
That's a 6 for me. They didn't explain enough for me to really justify. Because, dude, even just trying to explain it was difficult.
Yeah, like this whole
just the timeline
for me was like
it's
difficult.
Just,
to be honest with you,
it's just like we can literally put anything anywhere. Like I honestly, the timeline only matters in a matter of contextual like information.
Yeah,
like it doesn't really matter.
Honestly, all the mech part doesn't fucking matter, and I'll keep bringing it up that the mech part literally does not fucking matter at all.
Yeah.
Because the timeline wise, you could put any of those kaiju in any fucking order, anything to do with the eugenicist, and then it wouldn't fucking matter. If you put like their stories in it, that's the only part that matters because it ties in like way at the end.
Like I'll throw Gurren Lagann in there for instance again. Like at least all the mech, like it had a story behind it with the spiral and like living underground and stuff like that. So it tied in, and the mechs actually built into the character development and shit like that. With Dynazenon, it kind of felt like it was just there for action. Like it literally felt like it was just there to be like, okay, here's a cool fight now.
Yeah. I guess like maybe if like you don't like slice of life, maybe like that's what fucking got you through it. But I think like for people that don't really give a fuck about mechs, that it was the opposite for us.
Well, the reason I can justify a 6, yes, the mech part was really unnecessary, and the story, the character building was good. But, I mean, can you really compare it to, like, Erased, Angel Beats? Like, it doesn't carry it that far, you know?
Maybe, I don't know. I think, like, I'm probably just being nice, so maybe, like, it is a 6 for me.
Or, like, Banana Fish, like, I mean...
Yeah. Well, I think,
like,
Dororo, I think a lot of things, like I said, that, like, I default to, like, a 7, and then if you have, like, a good ending, I'll be like, alright, 8. If I'm like, damn, that shit slapped. I'm like, it's a 9 now.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Even like Violet Evergarden, like, dude, just the character building, it was good. It just wasn't on the level of where it's like, all right, well, having all this wrong with it and this little bit right with it, it just doesn't carry it that high for me. So I'm stuck. I think a 6 is where I'm gonna have to land.
I would say that makes sense. I think we're pretty much in agreement on it.
Yeah, 6.
Like it's just
not bad, but I'm probably never gonna watch it again.
Yeah, like I would put it as like probably I'm just a little bit curious about the sequel, so that's probably the only reason I'll watch the other one.
I would see it, and honestly, I'm curious
I would
about
to see how they tie in, and then see like maybe if that one does a better job.
I'm curious about Gridman too. See if that has any, answers. But honestly, like it's like I don't even care enough to really know if there are answers at this point.
Yeah, I think what I needed to know is what I know, but like I just feel like it's hard to explain because I don't care enough.
Yeah, I think I just get invested in characters, and I just like I said, I really like Yomogi and then Yume.
For sure, no, like
I think that's literally all I care about, and I'm like, man, if I could just see another fucking series of them two, I'd be happy.
Like I do care about them because they were good characters, but like at the end of the day, I do not care enough to want to know more at this
Yeah,
point.
I feel like that too. I get that.
Because I'm just like, at this point, it's just like, okay, how much more can they really do with it
Yeah.
if that's what they offered me the first time?
And I feel like the other part that kind of makes me like think about it is I'm like, fuck, I just want Galma to fucking get his like shit. Like, give him the fucking princess. Give him some fucking happiness because he's getting his shit rocked.
Yeah, or
Like, give that man some fucking happiness. That's all I
Right,
want.
like if Gamma had like his own series, I'd be like, cool about it. I feel like that'd be more interesting.
I would
I
think,
feel
yeah,
like
and
they
they could
like,
answer
bro,
some
if it was
questions,
like
but it's like,
Yomogi and Yume just fucking like trying to figure out what the fuck happened to Galma, I'd be like, this is fucking pretty good series.
yeah.
Like,
And
just
at the
trying
end
to
of it,
like get him back.
at the end of the whole thing, I still don't really know what the deal is between them and the eugenists, other than the eugenists want to kill
confusing.
people.
It's confusing.
Like,
so.
huh?
It's like they only exist to like fucking counterbalance each other, and it's weird.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I just wish I knew more. You know, I wish they would have taken the time to really, flesh out the
I
story
think
a
that's
little
like,
better.
I think there's like world building. I know that's like a weird term that comes up every once in a while, but like that happens in
Yeah,
like
but
games
it's
too,
not
to where
enough.
they don't explain like the world enough or like the backstory enough to like make you care.
For instance, I'll give you one.
Mhm.
Shield Hero did a really great job world building.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, like that's like a perfect example. So I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah.
fucking
Six,
probably
six.
average, a little below average. If you're watching it for a mech, definitely fucking super below average.
Yeah,
Depends
the
on how
animation
much.
is great.
Depends on
though,
how much you
so,
care. Yeah, and the animation's good. And then
If you go into it, you're gonna get some cool characters. You're gonna get like a little decent story about them, and
you'll just almost wish that it was separate, so you'll feel weird, and then you'll make a podcast about it.
But in the spectrum of all the other animes out there, I mean, there's just so many better ones.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
You know,
Especially for like the things that you're getting out of it that you can.
if you want a slice of life, just watch the slice of life, man. I mean, why throw in the weird?
That's where my life is pretty
connections?
much, honestly. It's like,
If you
why am
want
I
a mech,
wasting it
watch a
watching
mech.
mech? Yeah.
Who cares?
I got
But
the ending. I got the
I
ending
just-
this week, by the way, boys.
All right, you're on it.
You want me to go ahead?
Go ahead.
All right, guys. Well, we just whipped up Dynazenon in our below average rating or average rating, whichever way you want to look at it. Next week, we're gonna, review the intimate relationship between Levi and Zeke.
Yeah.
Nice. Below average, just like my penis.